it's been an evolution to think about, what do we assume that people believe or think about us? Because we make a lot of these assumptions, and frankly, they might not all be right. So I do, one of the keynotes I do with different groups is I talk about what's your personal brand. And Susan, I think it comes down to this question. I always say to people, what are the words you want your colleagues to use to describe you when you're not in the room? What do you, in other words, want people to say about you behind your back? And you want those words to be about being professional, being there for people, being a go-getter, being dependable, being supportive. But no one ever says, I want them to say I'm a snazzy dresser. I want them to say, in my worldview, I want them to not care about the color of my hair or the way whether my shoes match my dress. I want them to say, wow, that was really powerful information she shared with us. We're going to be talking about what your goals are, your professional goals are. And I'm going to challenge you through this day to think about your number one professional goal for yourself in 2024. And ask yourself, what do I want people to describe me as or use to talk about me when I'm not in the room that is either helping me to achieve that goal or is hindering me to achieve that goal?
And Michael, you said it so well. So there's personal branding, there's finding your voice, there's building your confidence. What are some of those other common pitfalls that you've seen that people encounter when they are pursuing their career and their goals?
You know, as you were talking, I was thinking about, let's say, we've got majority of our guests here today are in HR. You brought up a great example. So we're talking about the fun of having crazy hair color, but we might have a little more flexibility. But what if you are about to talk with somebody who is maybe dressing more less appropriately for your work environment, or that it's not comfortable for people? We have a tendency, whether it's engaging in conversations, preparing for something where we're talking with somebody, to get nervous about what we have to do and how we're going to do it. And I can see myself, my younger self, in that situation with someone who worked for me about 25 years ago, and having to talk to her about her clothing choices, which were a little too tight and a little too revealing. And I got very nervous about this conversation because it seemed uncomfortable. I didn't know why she couldn't just tell when she looked in the mirror. And I felt so almost trapped by the concept of this conversation. And we had the conversation. It went fine. She adapted her wardrobe. But now I look at things differently. If it was me today, instead of saying, Josie, we're going to have a talk about your wardrobe, I would start instead with, Josie, I'd like to talk to you about what your definition of professionalism is. In my book that's called Tell Me More, I talk about asking a lot of questions, even if as a leader, as a colleague, even if you actually know the answer, you're probably right. If you make an assumption that somebody's not working very hard, well, you probably know the right answer. You probably understand what's going on. But to say you're not working very hard is not helpful. Instead, if we approach situations with questioning, like, tell me about how it's going lately in your job. How are you feeling with your tasks? Are you feeling comfortable? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Is there anything you need help with? We may still address the same issue of, Josie, you're not performing to expectations. But I can do it in a way that maybe Josie might say, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I've been asked to do some things and I don't know how to do them. Maybe she'll say, I've got to tell you, I've got a medical issue and I haven't known how to bring it up. Maybe Josie might say, I'll tell you, I'm not excited about this job anymore. And when we operate just from our assumptions and we move forward that way, we not only lose the opportunity to gain new information, we lose the opportunity to build bridges. There were times in my career, and I remember one in particular where I was passed over for a promotion. And my assumption was immediately, first of all, they don't like me. Second of all, that other person, I guess they've been here longer. Thirdly, I mean, like I had this whole list of why I thought I was passed over for the promotion. And you know what? It became a chip. That got a little heavier on this shoulder and a little bit heavier on this shoulder. And then I started to get a little bit of an attitude. And then one day I finally had it. And I went to my boss and I said, I just don't understand why I got passed over for that promotion. And he goes, well, because I have a better one for you. He's like, I got something else that I had planned for you. Now, I might have screamed in my head some really bad words because I was so frustrated. I'm like, what? Why didn't you just tell me that in the first place? But can I really blame him? Or can I look in the mirror at myself and say, why didn't you just go to him and say, hey, I see that you gave the promotion to somebody else. I'd like to know why. Tell me what I can do. How could I improve? What's your thought process? Because I probably went 2 weeks between not getting the promotion and finally having enough of it. And in that 2 weeks, how good of an employee was I? I tell you, that was about 20 years ago. I was polishing up my resume. And instead, the promotion I got propelled me that much farther. But I didn't give him the chance. I made assumptions, and those things could have really hurt my career. They hurt my mental psyche quite a bit.
If only you had had a conversation. And the thing that you've said that is very, very critical, because some people here are leaders or managers of people, is moving conversations from telling to actually coaching conversations, and more importantly, listening without preconceived ideas about what they can and cannot do, should or should not say, and more importantly, avoiding assumptions.